Hello, students, teachers, parents, anyone who's watching this video. This is the first video in LBC's new Let's Be Creative series, where every day, including weekends for the foreseeable future, we will be putting out some arts education content every day on our Facebook page at 1 p.m. So we'll be doing some dance, some music. You've heard a little bit about this, but today we're going to be doing some theater. My name's Hannah. I work for LBC. I'm their curriculum specialist, but I also teach theater. And every Wednesday from now and for quite some time, I'm going to be leading a live family improv class on Zoom. So you and your family, who are all kind of cooped up together, can come and play some games and have some fun getting creative together. So that'll start next Wednesday. And I wanted to take today, first of all, just to let you know that that was happening so that you can plan and make that part of your schedule. But also I wanted to take a moment to kind of introduce improv to anybody who's brand new to this, and especially to talk about the rules of improv. Some people think that improv is just, you do whatever you want and there are no rules at all, and that's not actually true. You do have a lot of freedom when you're improvising, but there are some rules in place, and specifically those rules are just to make it easier and more fun for everybody to participate, and can help guide new players as well, people who maybe don't have any experience with improv. These two rules will make it so much easier for them to be able to participate. And so I'm going to take today to go through them real quickly, and in my classes that I teach, I only really use two, because there are others, but I find that these two cover most of those, that everything else kind of builds off on that. There is one other special one, but we'll get to that later. So my first rule of improv is accepting. When you're improvising, you are creating something without a script. You're creating a story with no plan. You don't know where you're going. Your partner doesn't know where you're going in the scene. And so you have to come up with this together. And the way to make that work is for you to make sure that you are accepting whatever the other person is setting up about the scene. Whatever facts they put in place and say are true about this imaginary world you're creating, those are true now. And so let me give you an example. If you're starting a scene and your scene partner comes out and the other actor in the scene goes, "Hey mom, what's for dinner? What's for dinner?" And you not accepting would be saying, "I'm not your mom." That takes a fact that they set up about the scene, a fact that they put into place about this imaginary world that you are parent and child, and turning that down. For whatever reason. Maybe you didn't like it, maybe you thought it was boring. Doesn't matter, you weren't accepting. You need to be able to take whatever facts that they set up and kind of both agree together, yeah, this is the world that we've set up. Yes, fine, I'm your mom now. This is how this goes. Now, accepting doesn't mean that you have to just do everything the other person wants. You don't have to, in this scenario that I set up, you don't have to make this child dinner if you didn't want to do that in your scene. You can absolutely say, no, you're old enough to make dinner on your own. And that's still accepting, because it's not undoing the facts of the scene that have already been set up. Accepting doesn't mean that you can't make decisions going forward. Anything that hasn't happened yet in your story is entirely up to you to decide. If it hasn't been decided where you are, you can decide that. If it hasn't been decided what your character's going to do next, you can decide that. But accepting is about realizing that whatever facts that they have said about that's already in play, whatever the relationship is that they have said, if they have said a location, that's where you are. If they have said there's a giant cactus in front of you, there's a giant cactus in front of you, and not undoing what they've set up, but you can still choose your own path forward. Speaking of choosing your own path forward, the second rule is to add something new of your own. Rules number 1 and 2 often combine to make probably one of the most commonly heard improv phrases, which is the yes and that's shorthand for this idea that you accept what the other person has set up, you say yes to it, and then you add something of your own, you and so this is really important, because what if we had this scene? Again, we go back to the same example we had before. Person number 1 says, "Hey mom, will you make me some dinner?" And person number 2 says, "Yes." And then there's probably a long pause, because where do you go from there? Person number 1 says, "I'm so hungry, what are you gonna make me?" And person number 2 says, "I don't know." And person number 1 says, "Well, I want peanut butter and jelly." And person number 2 says, "Okay." So you see how doesn't quite work. Even though person number 2 is accepting, they're not undoing anything that person number 1 has said or denying their reality that they've set up, their imaginary world, but they're also not, they're making person number 1 do all the work and come up with all the answers. And not only is that kind of boring to watch and boring to be part of, but person number 1 is definitely going to run out of ideas really quickly. So you really have to work together on this. So let's compare that to a yes and. Person number 1 says, hey mom, will you make me dinner? There's so many options. You could say, oh, it's already done. It's spaghetti. It's on the table. I was just about to call you. New information. We have new stuff there. Or they could say, I already made you dinner. You just ate an hour ago. You don't need a second dinner. It's new information. Or they could say, actually, we are all making dinner together tonight, so go ahead and wash your hands. That's new information. So in each one of these, and person number 2 is adding something to it. And that means person number 1 has something to yes, has something to accept. And they can accept and add. And then person number 2 can accept and add again, and back and forth until we have this whole beautiful story that's been created without either one of them feeling like they had the pressure to do all of it. And that's the beautiful thing about improv. Improv sometimes makes people nervous, because they think it's all about being smart and witty and funny and coming up with these brilliant ideas, and that's not really what it is. You do not have to be funny and witty to be able to do interesting and good and really creative improv. And part of what that is learning to be bold with the choices that you make. And improv is a great way to do that, because the best thing about it is that whatever and you set up, whatever new information you add, your partner's job is to say yes to it, whether they like the idea or not. So nobody should be stopping you during improv and saying, no, that was a stupid idea. Don't do that. No, there are no stupid ideas. If your partner says, hey, what's for dinner, mom? And you completely draw a blank and you say, we are having car engines for dinner. Cool, great. That is the reality that you've set up. Your partner now gets the job of trying to figure out how to respond to that, whether it's a more realistic of, what do you mean? We aren't supposed to eat car parts. That's not food. I was hoping for something else. Or going the opposite route and leaning into the silliness of it and going, yes, that's my favorite dinner. I'm so glad we're having that tonight. So you can and add an and make big decisions and go with whatever comes to your brain, and know that you are not going to get rejected, because that's not in the spirit of improv. They have to take that and they have to accept what you've given forth. There are no wrong answers as long as you are yes anding, with one exception. So this is that third rule I talked about. Different improv groups sometimes have different specific rules for their groups. And so for us here, because we're working with families and kids, we want to make sure that everybody can feel safe and feel like they can participate and have fun. So we're going to keep our improv G-rated. We're going to keep it entirely family friendly. So to reiterate, there are no wrong G-rated answers in our LBC improv classes. So if you want to check out some improv this week and watch other people do it who are professionals, I suggest you check out Comedy Sports on YouTube. That's sports with a Z at the end, not an S. And they are it's a comedy improv group all over the country that does family-friendly improv games. And so you can check out some of their shows on YouTube and clips of their shows and see the kinds of things that they do and how they yes and each other. And you can see how they always react and accept what the other person has set up and then find something of their own to add. And so you can learn a lot just by watching them do it and seeing how they play off of each other. So, regardless, come and join me next Wednesday at 1 p.m. for improv. We'll learn a new game, we'll practice it a couple of times to get kind of into the swing of it, and then we'll play. We'll let everybody who wants to have a chance to play this, and it'll be super fun. We are doing it through Zoom, so if you don't already have the tablet on or have the app on your tablet or smartphone and want to participate, go ahead and download it now and you'll be ready to go. We'll post a link to it on the Facebook page when we're ready to go live, and you can just follow that link on any one of your devices and jump in. You don't need to sign up or anything to participate, just click on the link and you'll be there. I hope to see you then, and tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. for more Let's Be Creative arts content. Thanks so much.